All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Kabbalah Café. So today's topic, if you got the email, and if you're not getting the weekly emails for this class specifically, let me know. I'll add you to the list so that you get the topic each and every week. Topic this week is Parasites. You know that film that came out a few years ago called Parasite? It won a lot of awards. Never watched it, but I know the name. I know there was a film called Parasite that came out a few years ago, but that's not at all the topic of today's class. The truth is, I don't really know what the theme of the movie was beyond its name, but today's topic is all about parasites. So what is a parasite? Let's get a working group definition. Parasite, definition.
It feeds off another, feeds off something.
Feeds off of someone else. What else?
It only survives by feeding on something.
Survives by feeding off someone else. Good.
It's not mutually beneficial organism.
Oh, I like that.
It takes and destroys.
I like that. Okay, good. And I want it. So all correct.
Doesn't give back.
Oh,
Right.
machnis ve'eno motzi. It takes in, but it doesn't give out. In other words, most things take and give, right? I think that would be like the mutually beneficial or reciprocal relationship. It takes, it gives. Or in a traditional English parlance, there's a give and a take, right? Something gives, something takes, right? It's a parasite is that which only takes and does not give. So the typical example, and I don't know if this is scientifically accurate or not, but it says a yitosh, which I think is translated as mosquito, right? Is machnis ve'eno motzi. Takes in but doesn't give out. I don't know. I feel like I saw a headline recently that they dropped like thousands of mosquitoes somewhere. Yeah, in some sort of foresty area. They're like, oh, this place needs some more mosquitoes. I don't know. I feel like there was some sort of ecological benefit behind the mosquitoes. Okay, so it turns out that take from your house and like move them there. A little mosquito relocation program. Rehoming the mosquitoes. Sounds like a plan. But in Kabbalah, the yitosh, the mosquito, is used as an example of a thing, of an organism, of an entity that only takes in and doesn't give out. It only takes and doesn't give. Now, let's develop this idea. So there is a phrase that you may be familiar with in Kabbalah called kelipah. Kelipah. What is kelipah?
Shell.
Shell. Good. Very good. A bunch of Kabbalists here. This is great. Shell. So what is a shell? On the most basic level, a shell is that which covers something else. Now, shells are necessary in life. Why are shells necessary? Think about fruit. Think about if fruit didn't grow without a shell or a peel, right? What happened? What would happen?
Parasites will get eaten.
It would have no appeal. Oh, wow. Wow. We just started off within 5 minutes with that one. I don't even know what to say to myself.
Way too early.
Dr. Maxey, as a medical professional, you are correct. I should have a warning, like from the Surgeon General, warning this joke may be harmful to everyone's health. Okay, so if the fruit grew without a peel, now you're all thinking of that also, right? What would happen? It would be unedible. At the point, by the time it got to us, imagine a banana without a peel. What's the plan, right? What's the plan, Stan? It's going to be all mushy by the time it gets. There's no context, huh?
It might not stand up. Well, might not have a.
Yeah, the whole thing's going to mush. And how could you sell it for $1 million on a wall if it's going to smush and fall down? It's not going to work either. No, that's not a joke. That was an actual thing that sold. So everything needs a shell, or at least a peel, right? It needs something to, some sort of packaging. Everything has packaging. I mean, this AI-powered, right, as if AI-powered 4K webcam that I'm using here, right? is in a box. I've kept the box because I don't want the lens damage or whatever it is, right? We have packaging on things, right? There's packaging. Look at the creamer that Ramon just used, right? It's in packaging. Imagine if there was no packaging. How would I possibly transport the creamer from the kitchen to here without any packaging? It would be, number one, super gross, and number two, super messy. Packaging, the shell, does so much to serve what is inside. If you didn't have a shell, the inside would be compromised. It's almost like the shell, right, takes one for the team. It's like I'll get bumped around, I'll get handled and mishandled, but as long as the inside stays okay. That's what a shell does. That's what a peel does. That's what a kelipah does. I know I'm using shell and peel interchangeably. In Kabbalah, it says there are different forms of kelipot. There are some that are softer, not literally, but some that are thinner, softer, that are more, that are less in the way, and then some that are more in the way, right? Some that are harder shells. Some that you have to really crack, really, really work hard to get open. Some shells, some kelipot, are impenetrable. You can never crack them open. No matter how hard you try, you'll never get that shell open. Hey, Sindri, good to see you. So, if you want, I mean, then you got to sit next to the teacher. That's so some shells are impenetrable. Like the only way to deal with it is to literally break it open. Not even break it open, is just to reject it, because it can't be, you'll never be able to access the stuff inside. I was cracking nuts on Passover. Why? Because what else are you going to do on Passover? Like what else are you going to really do, right? There's not much to eat. So, let's have nuts. So, you might know Chabad. Many have the custom within Chabad community to like be very, very natural with the food on Passover, which means no processed foods, except for maybe like the matzah that's made in a matzah factory, bakery, and the wine, which I'm not stomping on grapes myself. But other than that, I guess, and the chicken, which I'm not raising my back. Okay, so there's a few things, but otherwise, like other products, even if it's kosher for Passover, again, different customs, but we personally don't use. So the nuts, we wouldn't buy pre-shelled nuts. We would crack our own nuts. So there I am, cracking nuts, right? So there's this one nut, I don't know what it is. There's this one nut that's so hard to crack. Maybe you guys know. I'm not like a huge nut guy, but like cracking this nut, and it's not cracking. By the time I get it open, the whole thing is completely smashed. And I don't think I got any nuts from it. I tried multiple times. I'm like, anybody know which one I might be the? I don't even know. Maybe, I don't know. Walnut? They all look the same to me. Some sort of like darker color. I don't know. Like, yeah, could be a walnut.
Can this apply to you people too?
Huh?
Can this apply?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Child.
Yeah. Yeah. A tough exterior. Sometimes you gotta get past the tough exterior to get
to be protected.
Yeah. Oftentimes the tough exterior is put on by the most vulnerable, right? Because you gotta put off a tough exterior to protect yourself. So we have this notion of kelipah. Now, what is kelipah spiritually? Kelipah means that which covers and obscures the divine truth inside. Inside, everything is godly. Inside, everything is from the Creator. There's nothing that's not created by the Creator. There's nothing that just is. Judaism is very strictly monotheistic, which means there's only one at the top, right? It's not like at the top there's like duality. At the top, there's only singularity. It's only God. And that's true not only at the top, but all the way through. Everything is ultimately a manifestation of divine energy. Now, some entities bespeak that truth. Some entities, when you look at that entity, right, the moment you look at it, what you see is the source, the shoresh, the source. You look at it and like, oh, I know where this comes from. This comes from God. I could tell right away. If you met an angel, or if I met an angel, if we all met an angel, right? we would say, oh, this is a creature of God. It's fairly obvious. Angels are transparent creatures. I don't mean that they're see-through. What I mean is that they are transparent to their source. When you see them, they don't create an obstruction or a block or some sort of, layer of opacity that covers the truth. They are open and transparent to the truth. So you look at an angel, you would see the truth of where it comes from. The things in this world, a little less so. By and large, the things in this world, when you look at them, what they say, what they declare, even without verbally speaking, is I exist. I am. Not I exist as a creation of the divine. No, I exist. Like Pharaoh is quoted to have said, Li Ya'ori Vani Asitani. The Nile is mine, and I created myself. He was in denial. Right?
Which isn't just a river in Egypt.
Which is not just a river in Egypt, apparently. It's a whole lifestyle. Hashtag denial. Huh? Yeah, and through many people. The notion of, oh, I'm a self-made man. It's like, look what I've done. It doesn't mean that we can't take some sort of, credit for the effort we put in. Sure. But the idea that we are somehow, entities that are separate, disconnected, self-powered, self-driven is to belie all sorts of spiritual sense. Nothing can exist without being powered by the divine, without being powered by God. It's not possible. So the more transparent a thing is, i.e., the more the thing allows the truth to be seen and to flow through it openly and clearly, the more holy it is. The word kedusha, holiness, has many possible definitions, right? If we were to have a discussion about what does the word holy mean, right? I think we would get a lot of different ideas, a lot of different inflections about what holy actually means. But one definition in Kabbalah is that holy is that which is transparent to the truth, that which does not obscure the truth, that which is open and obvious to the truth. So when you look at it, what you see is the light flowing through, as opposed to the shell that's covering the truth. So some things you look at and you see a shell. You don't even know there's something inside. And what's the shell? I don't mean a fruit or whatever it is, or nut. I mean literally some things you look at and you see it as a self-identifying, discrete being, separate, as it were, allegedly or apparently separate from the source. And some things you look at and you say, oh, that comes from a higher source. Now, typically, things in this world are of the former category, meaning there's a nice thick shell around them or on the outside. So typically, when you look at things in this world, what you see is it, you don't see the source. Typically. It's the rare thing that you look at and the first thing you say is, wow, this bespeaks something higher. So like a mitzvah article, like a mezuzah. Now you could say, oh, I see a piece of parchment rolled up and affixed to the door. But I think most of us would say, oh, that's a mitzvah item, which means when you look at it, you know what it represents. You know that, oh, I know what that is. That's not just parchment with ink on it. That represents something greater, divine commandment, a biblical commandment, right? That protects our home, that represents divine protection of our home. The Talmud, just thinking about mezuzah for a second. The Talmud says, and the mezuzah is the scroll right on the doorpost. The Talmud says that God is unlike human kings, right? God is the king of kings, different than human kings. Why? Because human kings require guards, layers and layers of guards to protect them. God doesn't need any protection. On the contrary, God protects us, right? Imagine a king who would come to your house and station themselves outside your house to protect you. And God says, put up the mezuzah and I'll take care of you and I'll watch over you. Can you imagine? This is the king that we have. right? All other kings, mortal kings, require layers of protection. God says, I got you, I'm going to protect you, right? That's our notion of God. So the mezuzah doesn't get in the way of the messaging. When you look at a mitzvah item, whether it's a mezuzah or a pair of tefillin or a Torah scroll, when you look at a mitzvah item, what you see immediately is the truth or the spiritual essence that is behind it or beneath it. But when you look at most things in this world, what you see is the thing itself, right? You see the shell. You don't see what's inside. It'll be so cool if I opened this up and like glitter and glow came out. But alas, only a fuzzy. You're probably wondering what this is, right?
So clean.
It is for mics. Yeah. Yeah, it's the dustings. No. This is for a mic. If I wanted to look even more ridiculous, I would put this on. I'm kidding. Huh? Huh? It could be so many different things. You see that? But you would never know looking just at the case on the outside, at the shell. What's the point? The point is that everything in this world has a shell. Some shells are thicker than others. And the goal in life is to peel away the layers. It might not be an easily peelable layer, like a banana. Oh, it's done, it's gone. It might require years of effort of peeling the truth, peeling layers of obstruction back to get to the truth. And it's true about our own souls, within ourselves. It's not only true in things outside of ourselves, it's true within. How closely do we identify with our own souls, as opposed to the shell, i.e. our bodies, right? How immediately do we identify as souls that happen to have a body, as opposed to bodies that happen to have a soul? There's, who are we? Are we bodies having? Are we beings having a body experience with a soul kind of battery? Like, you twist. Remember those toys, those little toy things? You twist the back and right, it walks a little bit. Is that the extent of it? Or are we souls walking around and operating with the use of kind of a spacesuit, as it were, to allow the soul to operate in a foreign environment? And it's a question, and the question really is, how many layers of obstruction within myself will I peel back in this lifetime?
If you reference sort of what we've learned before about names having to have a body plus a soul, or else there's kind of no meaning, right? It further points to the answer that it's both. When we talk about who we are both this shell and the soul together in this point in time.
Correct. In this stage of life, we are a combination of both. The question is, in this blend, what is our primary self-identification? Do I look at myself primarily as a body, someone having a physical experience in this lifetime? Or am I looking at myself as someone having primarily a spiritual experience, but in a physical form, right? And it's going to shape how we live our day-to-day lives. When I wake up in the morning, what's the first, what's my aim for today? Does it have a spiritual import, or is it exclusively a physical experience, right? Waking up, going to work, eating and having fun. Or is there a deeper significance, a deeper meaning here? Now, let's talk about where shells come from, because in a reality created by God, shells would seem to be impossible. In other words, God is the creator. God creates everything. God is synonymous, not physical light, but, the concept of light, openness, revelation, clarity. Light is all of the above, right? Light is clarity. Light is when things are obvious and apparent. So if God is light, is the source of light, and creates, so then how is it that something can be created and there should be ambiguity about what it is and where it stands within the larger scope of things? Where does kelipah come from?
Zimzum, contraction.
So where does kelipah come from? It comes from tzimtzum. What is tzimtzum? Tzimtzum is contraction. What is contraction? It's not literally a contraction, but tzimtzum means the process by which God hides his light to create the appearance of otherness that has a self identity. This is very important. One of the most important concepts in Kabbalah is this idea of tzimtzum, and it explains how from a source of light, there are created beings that emerge that do not shine brightly. Like, how's that possible? Like, everything should create in its image, essentially, right? A derivative should look like the source. So how is it that God, light and truth and openness, right, that type of reality, how is it possible that from God are created entities that don't bespeak that the divine source of divine truth, that hide and obscure where they come from? How is that possible? So the answer to that, again, is the notion of tzimtzum. Tzimtzum, this contraction, or more precisely perhaps, this idea of concealment and obfuscation of the truth, whereby God essentially hides himself, right? Doesn't actually disappear, but hides himself in the process of creation. It's kind of like a parent wanting to empower their child and therefore stepping back to allow their child to make a decision on their own. Right? So imagine a parent, I mean, and I don't even mean a little child, but I mean, when the child gets older, right? And so the child is, needing to make a decision, let's say an important life decision, where they're going to go, where they're going to live, what they're going to do, whatever it is. And the parent has an opinion on it. But the parent says, I feel like, and this is an internal dialogue, I feel like for the benefit of my child and their growth, they need to make this decision. I mean, I can tell them what I want, but then they're not living their life. Happens sometimes the parents have to make these types of decisions. It happens, right? We call that granting independence. I don't know if anyone calls it that, but that would be kind of what it is, right? It's giving independence. It's valuing the decision-making of the other. It's saying, if I hold your hand so tightly that I take you where I want you to go, then what kind of life are you living? You're not even living a life at that point. You're just tagging along with me. That's fine when the kid is 5. They should be tagging along with the parent by and large, right? They should not be, exploring, the whatever. It's not yet. They're a little too young. But at a certain point, a little independence is needed. And how is independence forged, right? How is it created? By letting go. And it's not only letting go in a passive way, it's an active letting go. It's not saying, well, I don't really care what you do, so you're on your own. It's not healthy parenting. Healthy parenting is I really care where you go and I really have an opinion, but I really am going to hold myself back and allow you to make choices because I need to allow you, because you need to have independence. And the only way you're going to have independence is if I actively hold myself back. That's the way independence works. Again, there's 2 types of independence. There's one that happens by default. I mean, the parent's not around, so the kids grew up independently. What was the other choice? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not a default symptom. This is an active symptom. This is an active decision. It's a decision that's made, right, to hold oneself back, to hide one's presence, to allow the other to stand up and emerge on their own 2 feet. This is how God creates the world. God creates reality through the tzimtzum. God says, as long as I am informing, directing, guiding, shining in an open and revealed way, everything around me that's created, so-called created, is going to look exactly in my image, exactly the way I dictate and direct it. It's not going to have its own choice, its own agency. It's going to just be a mere puppet of my truth.
It's like programming AI.
It's like you programmed it, and now it's right. Unless AI gets a mind of its own, and then we're all in trouble. But whatever, right? Until that point, like the AI and the webcam, as it were, the old wink, wink. We can make a few extra bucks off this if we just throw in the word AI. The point is that God could, and the truth is, He did even create realms that have more of that light shining freely and openly. Less tzimtzum, more light. Sounds like the old Miller Lite commercial. Remember that? Less filling tastes great. Back in the day. Remember that commercial? Yeah, less filling tastes great. They were fighting about it. Oh, you could have it all. Right. So like there are realms that have more light, less symptom, like where the angels hang out, where the souls above hang out, and there's less agency, less angels on average. Studies have shown that on average, less angels go rogue than humans. Humans go rogue all the time. We don't even call it going rogue. We just call it asserting one's own, this is what I want to do. Great, you're human. Of course you do that. Everyone does what they want. That's life. That's the life we know. Angels are doing what they want. I don't think so. Very programmed. They feel very much, the top down, they are like the puppets with the strings, right? Marionette. Yeah. I don't even know her.
Yeah, Marionette.
Yeah. Marionette.
You're asking?
No, no. I'm attempting humor, but it's not. It's like Marietta. I don't even know her. That's my other. It's still not landing, even after 2 attempts. The point is that the entities above, they feel a little bit more like they're being pulled into a certain direction. It's like the parent who says to the kid, I'm going to tell you where you're going to go to school, what you're going to major in, what job you're going to get, and I'm going to guide you on this path. Is that a bad thing? I don't know if that's a bad thing. But would you say there's a ton of independence there? Probably not a ton of independence. Probably not a ton. Now, one might argue and say, well, I don't want my kid to have independence. No, I know what's best for them. And that's it. I would say by and large, that usually doesn't end well. Most people, as they get older, want a sense of agency for themselves. Think of all of ourselves here. You want to be told what to do. Who wants to be told what to do? No one wants to be told what to do. You want to be able to choose what you want to do, right? Healthy parenting is the ability to be mitzamtzem yourself. That's the verb of tzimtzum, right? It's the ability to contract yourself and to say, you know what? I'm not going to comment. Not that I don't have an opinion. I have a lot of opinions, but I'm going to withhold. I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to, even as I provide support, it's not like God is not creating through the tzimtzum. The light is still flowing, but it's flowing in a way that's not heavy-handed. It's not that I'm not going to support my child in this critical or important or next stage of their life, but it's rather that I will support them in a way that fosters their independence. Does that make sense? Yes. And what happens if they're truly independent? When you look at them, what do you see? Them. You don't necessarily see their parents. You see them. They made a choice. They made a decision. They're living their life the way the way they're inspired to live. And you see them. Now, can you also trace the influence? Sure. But what you see first and foremost is them. You don't necessarily see the source. Now, all of this is in a healthy way, is in a healthy example. Well, I don't think I explained necessarily healthy, but the healthy version would be the child. Let me just finish this theoretical narrative. The child grows into a young adult and then into an adult, is given along the way opportunities to forge their own independent path, make decisions, grow, make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, because we only learn from our mistakes, not someone else's mistakes. Someone else says, oh, I made the mistake, you don't want to make it. It's like, it's not going to work. I got to make it myself. I got to actually feel the pain to be able to recover from that pain. I can't feel your pain. It doesn't work vicariously. We all wish it would, right? Imagine if we could just somehow copy paste, the life lessons and the growth that we've had on someone else. Doesn't work. Either you had it or you didn't have it. So in a healthy way, the child, young adult, and then the adult has these experiences and grows and becomes their own person. And yes, is obviously related to the parents, related to the relatives, but is their own person with their own unique identity, purpose, mission, drives, desire, ambitions, etc. Okay, healthy way. But there is another reality, another truth that happens, and let's, for a safer conversation, let's speak about this on a cosmic level. And that is when the creation that is created through Tzimtzum goes rogue and turns against, as it were, the creator, and says, I don't know who you are. I don't know where, I don't, you say that I came from you. I don't know that that's true. I don't believe in that. I have no, I have no recognition of that. I believe that I am here because I'm here, right? Insert whatever, scientific explanation, whatever. I'm here because I'm here, but there's nothing greater than self. There's no higher purpose. If I choose a purpose, that's still my choice, meaning that's still something that I've chosen to be a good person or to not be a good person, but there's nothing higher. I don't represent something higher. I'm not coming from something higher. This is just it. This is what it is, and that's all that there is. Yeah.
So I'm wondering where you got the idea that you can't learn from somebody else's mistakes, because I know in my life, and I've got 2 kids in their 30s, that there are multiple examples of things that they want to do. And I said that if you do this, this is what's going to happen. This is what I did. And I learned from that. So if you point out that it's not going to be to their benefit and why, there's like multiple examples that I can think of where they learned from my mistakes of people that they know. So I'm wondering where you get the blanket statement that they can never learn from somebody else's mistake.
I made that up. It's certainly possible, and your examples are certainly true. I believe, and again, this could be incorrect, that by and large we learn that many of us learn from our own trial and error. Doesn't mean that we can't pick up guidance, from those that are not us. But by and large, it's almost like any type of help that a person needs. It's really hard to help someone else unless they want to be helped.
Oh, I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. And I think the statement by and large or mostly is a lot closer to the truth than absolutes like never, always, you can't do this.
Yes.
Like, I just think
Correct. Yes, correct. You are 100% right. Now, there are some elements in creation that go rogue. And what does it mean to go rogue? It means to essentially turn one's back. I don't even mean people, but turn the back on God, to turn away from God. What are these forces? This is what we call kelipah, which there are different forms of kelipah. The harshest version would be the things that that would be referred to as evil. What is evil at its core? Evil at its core is that which turns away from the source, that which conceals the source so strongly that you can no longer see any light shining through it, that all you see is shell and you don't see any light. That is the highest form of kelipah. Now, understand the irony of kelipah. The irony of kelipah is that it's born of tzimtzum. In other words, if there's no tzimtzum, if there's no concealment or contraction to the light in the process of creation, there would never be the possibility of any kelipah, of any concealment. If there's no concealment, there's no concealment. Correct? That's a truism, right? If there's only light, then there's only light. If there's only clarity, there's only clarity. Then there's no agency, there's no choice, there's no ability to turn away from the source. You don't have any of that. So the ability to have any sort of agency autonomy is only because of the tzimtzum. Because God essentially says, I'm going to hold back. Now, why does God hold back? What's the core motivation? For our benefit, so that we can stand up on our own 2 feet. What happens, though? What happens is that sometimes a thing, a force, a creature, a creation can take that greatest gift from God, right? Which is the ability to self-identify, and then essentially turn the gift against the giver. Does that make sense? Use the very agency granted by the creator to then deny the creator himself. That's the irony. That's the irony of tzimtzum. That's the irony of kelipah. Kelipah says, Ani va'afsi od. I am the only thing that is. I am, nothing else exists. And God says, do you even know where you're getting that from? The only way you would even say that is because I gave that to you. And what are you saying? Nope, I'm the only thing that exists. You see the irony? It's like God gives a gift and we say, thank you for the gift. I'm the only thing that exists. What? I just gave that to you. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. That was all me. That was all you. Who are you? How did you even get here?
I can't see it. I can see it.
It's like, oh, I don't see you, right? It's like, what is happening here? It's like God is granting the gift of independence, of autonomy, of agency, of self-awareness, self-consciousness, right, to us, earthly created beings. And then, not we, present company excluded, but then it can be, it's a possibility that a thing would turn against the very source and say, I don't know who you are. I don't know that you exist. Like, what source? What are you talking about? Where? What? In other words, the tzimtzum itself is done for a gift. I'm trying to think of a good example of this, like a different example where, you know, someone does something. I mean, I guess it kind of happens in life, right? Where you do something nice and it comes back to hurt you, right? Happens, right? It happens. But like, this is the ultimate form. I don't know if it's the ultimate, but this is a very stark form of that, where God is doing something to conceal himself and to grant us this independence. And then we can take it and turn it against the very source. Ellen.
I was thinking of a person, I don't say a person, but someone like Hitler. Was he inherently evil, or did he turn against? I mean,
that I don't know. I can't comment on any.
Who was evil.
Yeah, I hear you. That's, if we're looking to rank evil people, I guess, you know, he definitely would be up there. But I think that I would like to keep the conversation, well, in general, not necessarily about a specific person, but also in a way that it can apply to us ultimately also. So we can think about the blessings that we've received, and have we always had the gratitude of knowing where the blessing came from? Or like the parking lot joke, we take the credit for ourselves. And now you're thinking, what's the parking lot joke? You all know the parking lot joke. The guy that's looking for the spot and he prays to God because he's late for a meeting. He's like, please, God, give me the spot, give me the spot. And he keeps on circling and he's like promising this, and then I'm going to go to a synagogue and give tzedakah and do this, blah, blah, blah. And then he finally, fourth time around, the spot opens and he says to God, oh, forget, I don't actually need any spot just opened up. We're good. It's like, hello, where did this spot come from? Right. So I don't disagree with you. Of course, if we're ranking evil people, he would be up there. But like, I don't want to lose the subtlety and the personal application. It's like in our own lives, when God allows us, you know, to discover things and whatever, do we then attribute it back to God? Or do we take all the credit for ourselves? Look what I accomplished. Look, look how smart I am. I made such a great business deal. Do we say, well, hold 1 second. Yes, I made the deal, but how did I wake up this morning? Like, who was that? Where did that come from? Or, you know, how am I breathing right now in this moment? It's easy to forget about that stuff. It's easy to forget that everything is flowing from the source down through us because of the kelipah that we ourselves have. Yeah.
So are we not supposed to feel or struggle with this, the rebellion or or the the fact that we exist, because we're born and children don't know anything other than they exist.
Yeah.
And they're very animalistic, and they're not altruistic, and everything that any discipline or any knowledge that they learn as far as non-selfishness has to be actually taught externally. It's all artificial. It doesn't come with them. And then
You're saying children?
yeah, well, children, human beings, when each one of us are born, we are very self-absorbed, and we just want what we want, and we don't know anything about anybody. But if God wanted us to be so grateful, then He would have kept us as angels. For
Correct.
having us to show us. So obviously, we need to.
Well, you're saying an amazing point.
Yes.
Life is the struggle.
Right.
Life is literally imagine. Okay, so I love what you're saying. Imagine this. Everybody has, imagine like not only a diamond, but like some sort of like mythical, magical, glowing orb. Like this is the most amazing gift you could ever imagine of wealth and enlightenment and beauty and purity and spirituality is represented in this like glowing orb, and it's in a box. And the mission in life is open the box, access the light. That's it. We grow up with the box closed. Sorry, we're born, the box closed. And the mission of life is get it open. Sounds like a reality show, right? Try to hammer it open, right? Try to somehow, get it open. That's the mission of life, is to try to discover. We all have that. You said so we're born we have a part of us is selfish. For many of us, that's the dominant part. That's the shell. It's a thick shell. Inside of us is absolutely a pure piece of God. It's without a question that's the core and the truth of who we are. But it all begins with the self-identification. The story about kelipah is not a cosmic tale of Tzimtzum gone rogue. It's a story of our lives. It's not like, there's a thing called kelipah that turns its back, ironically, against its own creator. And even though it's created by God through Tzimtzum in order to be able to stand on its 2 feet, it stands on its own 2 feet so much that it says, I don't even have a creator. Can you imagine? How crazy is that kelipah? That's one conversation. The other conversation is, how do I work on myself to be a little less kelipah today and be a little bit more neshama, be a little bit more soul? That's the real conversation. The first conversation is a theoretical, abstract Kabbalah. What happened? What was it called when you made planets? What was that thing called?
Diorama.
Yeah, that's a Kabbalah diorama. I don't think anyone's ever put those 2 words together, but we just did it, right? That's like, so we have the creators here, the Tzimtzum's there, the shell, the kelipah's there, good is here, evil's there. Got it. I've mapped it out, right? And it's all off the 285 because everything's off the 285 somehow. That's not where Kabbalah is not about mapping realities. I mean, it does that, but that's not what it is. It's to enlighten us, inspire us, and empower us to become more in touch with our neshama, with our souls, to become more in touch with our creator, with God. That's the whole point. There's no secret agenda. It's all about getting more in touch with the truth. So what happens? God wants to give us the greatest gift, the gift of self-awareness, the gift of being able to choose truth, not out of default, but out of real, genuine agency and choice. So God says, I'm going to create you in a way in which I'm not going to be so obvious, in which you're going to be so obvious to yourself. I'm going to hide in the background. It's like, anyway, I have another joke in mind, but we'll skip the jokes for right now. It's like the parents hiding in the background and seeing what's the kid going to do. And so God does that. The question is, how do we respond? Are we clever enough to recognize the truth? Or are we so obsessed with our own self-awareness and ego that we can't even see beyond the Tzimtzum? That we're so stuck in Tzimtzum reality that we just got like, I don't know, all I see is Tzimtzum, all I see is myself. Today, I don't really care what God needs. I don't really care what my soul needs. Here's what I want. Here's what I need today. And do we live our lives in that space? And that's where Kabbalah comes in. Now, when it comes to kelipah, I want to mention two things, or a thing that has two parts to it. So how is kelipah, which essentially turns its back on its creator, how is it animated? How is it energized? Where does it get its vitality from? Right? Because everything has to be plugged into the source. If it's unplugged, then it ceases to exist. It's like if you unplug a refrigerator or a freezer, expect stuff to start melting. I have a mystery that I'd like to crowdsource here. This is off topic, but it's a mystery. Anybody like mysteries? Okay. Kroger Fountain Oaks. This is going to be off topic. Kroger Fountain Oaks on Roswell Road. Okay. So I like sparkling water, like, you know, I'm Jewish like that. So seltzer. And there's been a renaissance of seltzer in the last, you know, decade or so, starting from LaCroix and then going into like Waterloo and bubbly and all these other flavors. And now there's also a Topo Chico, right? And now there is also, not now, but there's also Polar, which I'm a fan of Polar now. For some reason, when I buy that seltzer, I buy seltzer and take it home, might be sitting in the car for like 20 minutes in a hot car, take it out of the box, it's cold. It's almost ice cold from the shelf. Somebody can crack that mystery. I bought many, right? Off the shelf in a store and it's cold. It makes no sense.
Store's refrigerated.
Because you have a space.
Yeah, but I can't imagine. No, that's when I put it into. Of course, I put it in the refrigerator. It's cold. I'm talking about from my. Anyway, it's a mystery.
A property of they insert like carbon dioxide or something in.
No, because you buy it at the other Kroger down the street. It's not cold. It's room temperature. Just this one Kroger. Now I know it's across the aisle. It's across the aisle from like a refrigerator thing. But I don't know. Maybe that explains it. Maybe it's coming from the refrigerator in the back and they're putting onto the shelves cold and they're restocking it quickly. This is the mystery. If anybody can find, huh?
5 minutes from your house. It's still cold when you get home.
You know, I bought many beverages off the shelf in cardboard boxes. They're never cold. They're always room temperature. Anyway, it's not what the class is about, although it is now. Back to the story. So the question is like this. Yeah.
I know you
Wait, Kabbalah or seltzer?
It's Kabbalah. No, it's.
Why are you talking about Kabbalah in a seltzer class? I'm kidding. Okay.
I remember you said that, you know, Kabbalah, like it does map realities, but not quite.
Yeah.
But something that it says in the text in the Tanakh is like God's presence like melts mountains, and like when they're there, like there's storm and there's like a lot of stuff. And the way that kind of God has reflected this in like the physics of our world is that, you know, like this is like our universe is kind of like a container. It is kind of like a shell that holds us in, and therefore it contains a finite amount of energy. And like statistics show that it's like actually far more likely that there's not an existence, that there's like no life. Like it's way more likely that happens, right?
Right.
So
there's the fact that we're here is quite miraculous.
Literally, if there was an infinite amount of energy here, like we wouldn't be able to exist. So because God has sort of carved a wave, that's that's literally why, you know, we're able to exist today.
Yeah. Simpson.
Yeah, exactly.
Does a body good. I'm saying it's like it's a thing, huh?
From the energy, like combust from energy or something. There's
Yeah.
too much energy.
Right.
It would just explain.
Right. No, so I think what Ramon is saying is imagine an infinite God with infinite energy creating a space that balances life, even just very literally human life, that only can contain just a little bit amount of energy. And imagine how much withholding that takes. Right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah.
An infinite energy withholding itself. So that's not even about the self-awareness angle of it. That's just about like the existential angle, which is correct. But I want to focus for the last few minutes here on how is it that kelipah, which turns its back on its creator, how does it remain in existence? Everything needs to be, that's how I got into the seltzer train. So I'm thinking like maybe the shelves are refrigerated. That's my conspiracy theory, which is definitely not true. Anyway, but anything, a refrigerator, right? A freezer, so we got the, it has to be plugged in to work. If it's not plugged in, it's not going to work. So a thing that turns its back on its creator and basically says, I'm cutting the cord. So then how is it in existence? Okay, so one answer is, well, even if it thinks it's cutting the cord, God's like, I got you. You haven't cut the cord. I'll tell you when the cord is cut. Your cord is not cut. But more precisely, how is it? What is the relationship between creator and kelipah in which it derives its energy? So Kabbalah teaches that there's two ways in which kelipah, or the forces of negativity, evil, etc., kelipah shall derive its energy. Number one, from the lowest dimensions, and number two, from the highest dimensions. So let's explain. The lowest dimensions, the analogy is like this. Imagine a king throws a feast, and invited to the feast, you can't just show up at the feast. If you show up, you'll get turned away. It's like, who are you? You're not on the list. See you later. But you know who is able to eat from the table, the food from the party, even though they're not on the list?
Waiters.
The kelev, the klavim, the dogs. The dogs that are around, whether they're, in the palace or even outside, because whatever is left over, basically throw it away, throw it to the dogs. So somebody who's not on the invite list is not going to get, but scraps will go to anyone, to anywhere. So one way that kelipah gets its energy is like the scraps from the leftovers, from the lowest dimensions of divine energy, which means that after the energy cascades downward from level to level to level within the architecture of creation, it goes all the way to the lowest of levels, all the way at the end, the very last point after the energy has been so materialized, right, and keeps on descending, the leftovers go to kelipah. That's one dimension. Another dimension, it says, or another form of deriving energy, is from the highest level. Why? The highest level is a level that's beyond light and darkness, even beyond good and evil. The highest level is like the level predetermination of what is light and what is darkness. And from that level, good and evil are almost synonymous. This is why, by the way, the mystics explain why Haman, right, Haman, in the Purim story, why he threw lots, right? He chose the date to, God forbid, annihilate the Jews, which, spoiler alert, didn't work. But he chose that date based on throwing lots. Why lots? He wanted to transcend. He wanted to go to a level higher than seichel, higher than logic, some sort of super rational, right? Transcendent dimension, a space where good and evil are interchangeable. That still didn't work out. But conceptually, evil and kelipah can derive energy and nurture from makif, from a level that's transcendent. So from the normative system, they can't get, they're not invited, they're not on the invite list. But they can get from the lowest point, the leftovers, or the highest level. The pre-binary split of good and evil dimension. So what does this mean for us? Kelipah represents ego at its core. It represents self-identity. It represents self-interest over divine interest or over even purpose interest. It's like, it's asking oneself, what do I need, as opposed to asking oneself, what am I needed for? Story of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, where a person came to him and he was kind of complaining about, he needs this, he needs that, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. The Alter Rebbe said to him, you've done a very good job of sharing everything that you need. And it seems like you've thought a lot about that. But have you given some thought as to what you're needed for? A life that's lived in a space of I need is a very heavy life. It can weigh us down a lot. Imagine the energy that it takes to fulfill all our needs all the time? It's never ending. And you wake up tomorrow and you do it again? Oy, gewalt. You gotta be kidding me. Again, you body with your needs every day. Oh, I need this, I need that. Here it is. Okay, thank you. I need this, I need that. Again and again and again. That's a heavy existence. It's crushing. It's crushing. You know, we wonder sometimes why it is that, like, in a society that has taught us for decades now that the first focus to be yourself. Why happiness is a serious issue. It's like because in that mind space of I have to take care of myself, it's actually endlessly crushing and endlessly pointless. I'm going to take care of myself and fill this desire, and then what? Does that actually do anything? No, and then I need it again and again and again and again. The equivalent is, and again, this is not a kind of, it's like a kid and a toy. It's like they see a toy and they want a toy. You got them the toy. They're happy. What do they want 5 minutes later?
5 minutes. Yeah.
For 5 minutes they're happy. And then what do they want? Another toy. Whatever it is. And then they want to, it's like, that's not it. The only way human beings with souls are actually happy are when we live with purpose, not for self-fulfillment, but rather for a higher purpose. The happiness we ever are, and I know I'm making more blanket statements, but always whenever I say a blanket statement, just hear me saying most or some, or maybe even just talk about myself. The happiest, or I'll talk about myself, the happiest I've ever been is when I'm not even thinking about myself. Think we're gonna be happy thinking about ourselves? How long is that gonna last? How long is that dopamine hit or whatever it is, whatever the chemistry is? How long does that last? 5 minutes. A person could spend their whole life chasing highs. People do spend their whole lives chasing highs in one form or another. But that's all about the high of self-fulfillment, not in a higher way, but in a lower way. Kabbalah teaches us that the key is living a life that's not about feeding self, but about being of service to something greater than self. That's what really elevates us outside of this confinement and restriction. Again, when you tell a person, I want you to spend a lot of time thinking about how you feel and how happy you are and what's causing you happiness, what's causing you unhappiness. Think about yourself the whole day. You know what that's a good cause for? Going meshuggah, going crazy. The happiest people are the people that are not in their own heads. The people that are in service of and living life in a state of flow and not in their own heads. So it's not about you check in. And yes, sometimes you have to, and people have to. Yes, I'm not challenging that. But Judaism says, Kabbalah teaches, learn the lesson from kelipah. Kelipah is self-absorbed, self-obsessed. Kedusha, holiness, is source obsessed, right? So are we living for self or living for source? And so I want to highlight the two directions. We'll do that. I'll wrap up and then we'll take questions. So I want to highlight the two directions. What energizes kelipah? Either the lowest or the highest. Our ego manifests in both of these extremes, either in extreme feelings, or maybe not, maybe extreme is too extreme, either in feelings of lack of self-worth, which is also a manifestation of ego, because who says I have to be worth anything? I have to do things, but who says I have to feel worthy? You with me on the distinction? Why am I making this about how I feel? If I have a mission, if someone needs me and I'm there for them, I have to feel good or not good about myself. Who's making it about me? It's about them. It's not about me. So number one, when we feel low, it's a sign of ego. You say, well, no, low is humility. No. You feel low. You feel like the dregs. You feel like the like the bones going to the, you feel like the leftovers, that's a sign of, again, ego. That's the inverse of the ego. And when you feel like you're on top of the world, right? Beyond any, above any rules and any laws, beyond good or bad, that's also a sign that the ego is a little bit too pronounced. Both extremes, the low and the high. So what's the middle ground? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai on his deathbed, he was one of the great rabbis, the times of the Second Temple era and beyond. So he lived about, 1900 years ago. And the Talmud says that on his deathbed, he was crying. And his students said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Because I'm about to pass away. Ve'eni yodea be'eza derech molichen oti. And I don't know which direction they're going to take me." What did he mean? What do you think he meant? When you get into the elevator, right? Above, not literally an elevator. It might be an escalator. It might be a stairwell. Am I going to go up? Or am I going to go down? Which direction? That's why he's crying. I don't know where I'm going to go. So Kabbalah asked the question. He was a great rabbi. He didn't know. He didn't know he was a tzaddik. He didn't know he was a righteous person. How's that possible? How could you have such a lack of self-awareness? And the mystic's answer, exactly. Because if you're living a life of goodness, you don't necessarily have time to check in and say, "Oh, I did good today." You know what you're doing every day? You're just doing good things. And then when you need to think about it, you're like, "Wait a second, I never thought about it. Did I live a good life? Did I not live a good life? I was too busy living a good life to be caught up in the question and the awareness of, how is my life going?" Living in flow is a blessing. And so, homework for this week. Take a moment to think less of yourself and think more about what you're needed for. Less about what I need and more about what I am needed for. Like I once heard a great translation of humility. It's not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking about yourself a little bit less. And I think that's a good thing. Unburden ourselves from the weight of existence and start living. Existence is for the birds. Not that the birds are not good. The birds are great. But that's an expression, right? Existence, overrated. Life, that's what we need to be living. And life is lived when we are open to our source, open to truth, and open to purpose. Yeah.
That kind of makes me think of the Jim Carrey movie. Not that you would say yes to everything in life like he did.
Which one?
The movie where he says yes to everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so when I think of like living life like with a flow, in this movie he like says yes to everything.
Just open.
And then all of these other things open up, and it's just like he's could say living on the flow of life.
Yes.
Is it Yes Man?
Is that the title of the movie?
Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It may be.
We should do a screening here. We actually are doing a movie screening soon, in a week, which I'll speak about soon. Yeah, Harry.
So there's a difference between happiness and contentment.
Yeah.
Happiness changes, and happiness is fleeting. Different things make you happy at different states. Versus contentment is inner peace.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's very powerful. I would say, I'm going to repeat it for those online that probably can't hear it from the microphone over here. Happiness versus contentment. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness changes. That's a little bit arbitrary, whereas contentment, that's deep-seated. I love what you're saying. Even the word happiness, the etymology of the word is hap, right? When do we use the prefix or the letters hap? Happenstance. Or haphazard. That typically means things that are accidental. But for most, and again, this is just the way, and I get why people do this, why Madison Avenue does this, but there's a sense of, if you want to be happy, then you need this thing to be happy, right? If you happen to get this thing, then you'll be happen to get the right relationship, the right job, the right car, the right house, the right Bitcoin, the right this, that, then I'll be happy. But then you get that and you're not happy. So then it's like, oh, well, maybe happiness or contentment is an inside job and not something outside. And that's, I think, part of the discovery of life, is that happiness is not something that will happen to us. It's an inner dynamic. And it's typically stoked by the choice to live a meaningful life. And typically that means less self-awareness. I think human beings, when overly self-aware, I'm not saying we should be totally not self-aware, that's also dangerous. But too much self-awareness, I don't think does a body or mind good.
Also reduction of ego.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. Frank, jump in.
Hey, I think I talked to you about this before, but one of the prayers I do in the morning is I keep reminding myself of the word stay, S-T-A-Y, which stands for stop thinking about yourself. And I use that. It's almost like a mantra. Like when I'm starting to get disturbed or deterred with somebody or some situation, I get to go, Frank, stop thinking about yourself. You know, people aren't thinking about you that way. You know, if someone doesn't call me back when they're supposed to, and now I'm going through the whole Rolodex of why I don't like that person anymore because they didn't call me back or whatever. I go, stop thinking about yourself. So I just go, stay. That's my word, stay. S-T-A-Y.
I want to speak about Frank for a second because he's not thinking about himself. So I'm going to think about him for him. See what I'm doing here? I'm thinking about you for you because you're staying, whatever. So Frank came here. Frank, you came here like, I don't know, 2 years ago to speak in our community. Frank's originally from Philly or I don't know if Philly. And then now he lives in California. And I can't even, what am I saying? There are very few people that I've met in life that have done the self-work, like the just transformation that Frank has done. Frank, you are an amazing person.
Well, thank you.
And to hear you saying that one of your keys of success, of personal success, is stay. It's just to get out of your head and just be, and just be where you're needed today is a very powerful affirmation. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, your teaching was amazing today. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Made sense? Yes? All right. And if not, there's always next week. Oh, actually, there's not next week. One second. I mean, there is a next week, but we're not going to. So next Sunday is the 9th of
Yom Tov.
Yeah, it's Tisha B'Av. And Tisha B'Av, although we can do work and lights and whatever, like it's not prohibited, but it's a fast day and it's a 25-hour fast day like Yom Kippur. It starts Saturday night right after Shabbat, actually right before Shabbat ends at nightfall, and it goes all the way to Sunday night. So it's a 25-hour fast. We will be at this time, probably. It's a long morning service, so we'll be in the synagogue praying and thinking about the day. It's the day that marks the anniversary of the destruction of both holy temples in Jerusalem. So it's a day to think about, what we need to do in our lives, and individually and collectively, to kind of repair the world, tikkun olam, and repair the situation. We know that the second temple was destroyed because of sinat chinam, baseless hatred. And the way to, meaning fighting amongst yourselves, the way to fix that is less fighting. Fighting always comes down to ego. So consistent with today's lesson, right? So it's a little less ego and a little bit more love. So next week, we are not going to have class. I will be showing a film. The film is called The Light of Fire, and it takes place at 7 p.m. next week. Sunday. 7 p.m. It'll take place probably in that small room over there, the Daily Shul. It's a story about an artist, and he is a tremendous Jewish. He's American. He lives in Israel. Artist. He's been painting for decades, and I'm not giving away the plot because this is the story. There was a fire a few years ago, like a wildfire in Israel. His entire studio, with all of his decades of work, burnt to the ground. He lost everything. All of his art. And the story it's a documentary about his rebuilding, finding the light after the ashes. And it's a good metaphor for what Tisha B'Av is, how to how to rebound from loss, from sorrow, from grief, from life's disappointments, how to keep on, how to resume living. So that's next week, 7 p.m. So no Kabbalah in 2 weeks, but we'll pick it up with at least a gathering for that, and no popcorn, no soda and popcorn for that film on Tisha B'Av. No sushi, no, garnished. Just get the movie. That's all you get. All right. I think that's it. Yeah. Stay tuned for more announcements. We're going to send out emails about stuff that's happening. We have, I should mention, you know what? Okay. All right. One thing that I'm going to mention that I don't think is yet on too many radars. We are doing a retreat, a mountain retreat, weekend mountain retreat. How many ways can I say the same thing and get it right? At Camp Ramah Darom, which is in Clayton, Georgia. It's a beautiful campground. It's used for a Jewish summer camp, like an overnight camp. But we are going to be going there with a few Chabad's, Chabad of Cobb and Alpharetta are also joining. So we're going to do a few local Chabad's together and go there for the weekend. It'll be filled with inspirational talks and study and meditation and prayer and good food and activities. And you're out in nature and it's amazing, but you sleep in, if you want, you can sleep out in nature. You don't have to. There's actual cabins with running water and all that stuff. So it's like, it's more like glamping. Can we say it's
You can
glamping?
camp if you want.
Huh?
You can camp.
I don't
You
know. I
can-
can look into it. Oh, you're saying if you want to come with the tent?
Yeah.
I'm sure that no
Like
one's going to.
Limo.
Yeah, probably like Limud. Yeah, Limud's also there. So, but not that weekend. So it's the weekend. I'll give you the date. It's the weekend of October 30, maybe 31st, and then November 1st and 2nd. So come dressed up. I'm kidding. It was a joke. That was a Halloween joke. Dressed like a camp. Dressed like someone going on a Shabbaton. Yeah. Friday the 31st, right? Trick or treat will be matzo ball soup.
Sunday.
And then Shabbat is the 1st and Sunday is the 2nd. It's going to be, hopefully, please God, beautiful weather. It's in the fall. Huh?
Parasha.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. So join us, save the date, and send out an email in the next few days. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's affordable. It's fun. It's inspirational. I'll be there with my wife, and we'll have a few kids there as well. So it'll be a lot of fun. Stuff for adults. If there are kids, there's a separate kids program, so the adults can have their program. It's going to be fun for all ages. Join us, Clayton, Georgia. Yes. There's a very prominent speaker whose name. Well, we have the rabbis and rebbitzins that are speaking, and we are still working on I'm finalizing the lineup. So I don't have any things to reveal. Maybe we'll see. Well, there's a few ideas, but either way, it's gonna be amazing.
Will there be carpools?
Yeah, if you need I'm sure there's people coming. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm sure some crowds will go. Yeah, it should be a nice crowd. So if you're interested, look for the email. If you don't get my emails, let me know. I can add you to the email list, or just reach out and I'll send you the information when it's up online. It'll be a lot of fun. All right.
Thank you
Have a
very much for the beautiful class. Amazing.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you. Great to see you, Mariana, and Roy and Jackie and Alex. Dr. Alex, good to see you. It's been a minute. And Dr. Maxey, good to see you. Mariana, give my best to your husband and to the kids.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you all.
My name on your email.